Hey, welcome back to Common Sense OT Security. The other day, one of my LinkedIn followers asked me, "Hey Ralph, can you please review this document by England's National Cybersecurity Center on something that seems to be around OT asset inventory creation?" So the title is "Creating and Maintaining a Definitive View of Your OT Architecture." And I had a quick look at the document and then decided, well, why not? Seems to be in my wheelhouse. Just for some orientation here, what this is. Actually, I don't know the specifics of the origins, but it appears that it has to do with some relation to another document that I reviewed 3 months ago, which is CISA's OT Asset Inventory Guidance. So it almost looks like this group of cybersecurity agencies that you can see here at the top, that they are building some kind of trust group here where they share and publish guidance around OT security. And it looks like, to me, it looks like if you look at the individual nations, just like the Five Eyes, only that also Germany managed to sneak in. So you see the German BSI also being mentioned in the header. And so it appears like a collaboration on OT security issues of national interest. Certainly an effort that everyone will applaud, because we can get all the help and the tailwind that we need, all that help by the governments that we can get. So let's just dive into it. I have to be honest, I don't really understand the title, because I don't know at this point, when I just start reading, what they mean with a definitive view of your OT architecture. It's going to get clearer, and we'll get to there in a minute. However, the subtitle is a bit more descriptive. How organizations who deploy or operate OT systems should build, maintain, and store their system understanding. Okay, now you got me. System understanding, that is something that I want to learn more about, because I believe it's very, very important to understand your OT systems. And in my opinion, by framing it in this way, they also come up with a very interesting approach, because from the beginning they seem to suggest that having a list of individual OT assets, which some consider an OT asset inventory, that is not enough. And they're absolutely right about that. So they got my attention. Let's dive into the document. This guidance defines a principle-based approach for how OT organizations should build, maintain, and store their systems understanding. It's aimed, okay, and then we have the various chapters. Let's move on. Introduction. OT systems are a prime target due to their criticality and the potential impact of if these systems are disrupted. Guys, tell me more about that, because I don't see it. They are a prime target for whom? Why haven't we seen more cyber physical attacks, if that is true? Due to their criticality and potential impact. So I think not necessarily the best and most convincing introduction, if you ask me, because that is just an unfounded allegation. Which certainly is not backed up by the document. No numbers, no statistics, no nothing. As the number and capability of threat actors targeting OT increases, tell me more. How many are there today as compared to last year? Certainly they don't tell us. So too does the need for robust cybersecurity controls. So again, in this man's opinion, not the most convincing introduction, because I don't need to point to the threats and allege that they are getting more and more potent, and they're working hard day in and out to disrupt my critical systems. I don't need to do that. That's just fabricated nonsense. Unless you provide any evidence for that, they may have it, but if they do, they should better put up something on the table, because there is no evidence for that. So and again, the question I have is why would you even use this argument? Because you could also simply point out, we know as a fact that all those OT installations are very, very insecure, up to the point where many of these installations, particularly in the water industry, are exposed to the internet with default passwords or trivial passwords. So in my opinion, that would have been a better introduction, but what do I know? Now let's continue. Traditionally, okay, and now they're interconnected. We got that. To design appropriate and effective controls, a holistic system understanding is required. And I would say you could simply drop the term holistic and you wouldn't lose any information here. A system understanding is required. Yes, and that is what most people don't have. In this guidance, the term definitive record is used to describe a continually updated, accurate, and up-to-date view of the system. I like that. So now we know what they're actually referring to. And again, I don't see the necessity to introduce this little bit abstract term, a definitive record. So it appears to me what they are going after is an OT asset inventory that is contextualized and up to date, like it's evergreen. Well, that makes a lot of sense to me. That is, and also that is something that sets this document, or this approach used in this document, apart from the other one that I've discussed a couple of months ago. So they are heavily focusing on context and on the updates. So it must be evergreen. Why they're using the term definitive record, I don't know. I think it's not the best term because it's very abstract. I would just call it a contextualized evergreen OT asset inventory. And that is certainly what everybody needs. And that will allow you to effectively assess risks and implement the proportionate security controls rather than focusing solely on individual assets. That's the point. Very good point. Okay, let's just say a system approach enables you to consider the broader context, which leads to a better assessment of the criticality and potential impacts of compromises. Absolutely on point. It doesn't give you much by just focusing on individual devices. You must put it in context. And let me point you to another resource just by coincidence. So this is pretty much unrelated to today's webcast. A couple of days ago, I posted this article on LinkedIn. It's about the same topic. It's about a contextualized evergreen OT asset inventory. So if you're interested in my take, which is a little bit more technical, and you will see that when we go more into the details of that government document, then I think this is a good read. It's an article on LinkedIn from IP addresses to actionable intelligence. So they have set the stage, and I like it. I don't like the specific terminology and the threat actor stuff, etc. But anyhow, they point to a very important characteristic, which is the foundation of every effective OT security approach. Key priorities. Your organization should aim to create a definitive record of all OT systems. I love it, especially with the all being in boldface. Yes, of all OT systems that it owns and operates. Since this task can be complex and time-consuming, you should prioritize systems based on the impact of the system to either your business function or the potential of national impact. Guys, you have started out in such a great way, and just a sentence later, you're losing it. Because just think about it from a logical perspective. So they tell you have to do it for all systems. No way around that. Yeah, but that's going to be difficult. So start with the most critical systems then. Do you see where the problem is? If you don't, just think about it for another second. If I don't know all the systems, I am totally not in a position to identify the most critical systems. As simple as that. So what many people don't understand is that the term criticality, it's easier said than done. It's easy to talk about criticality and risk, etc. But many people fail to understand the full meaning of the term, or how it is used in real life. And criticality, just like risk, is a relative term. So it's always relative to a given subject under consideration. That means if you, let me rephrase. You can only talk about criticality in a meaningful way when you look at the whole picture. Then you can identify the most critical systems. If you don't have that, what I think they call the holistic view, then it's not a good idea to try to identify critical systems, because you might find a week later, oh man, with that other system that we have just identified or inventoried yesterday, oh, that's much more critical, and we should better have invested all the effort on that system than spending 3 weeks on inventorying that other system that we thought was critical, but it's not nearly as critical as this new system. So from a logical perspective, doesn't make a lot of sense, so that's a drawback in my opinion. They start rather well. You should aim to create a definitive record or contextualized OT asset inventory of all systems. Yeah, and then the overall exposure of the system, how many connections. Yeah, I only know this after I have created that inventory. Principles-based guidance. This guidance outlines the principles that organizations should aim to achieve when documenting their OT. Okay, we will talk about that. Terminology, this is something that you often find in those government documents. And here again, you have this definition of definitive record. A definitive record describes a continually updated, accurate, and up-to-date view of the system or element of the system. It will change over time with all system changes recorded to maintain accuracy and authority. Yes, okay, now we know what we're talking about. Principle 1, define processes for establishing and maintaining the definitive record. So define your process for building a contextualized OT asset inventory. How will information be collected? Information sources could include an asset inventory, but basically that is your definitive record if you contextualize it. Existing design documents, your staff, passive monitoring, guys. No, doesn't work like that. Your passive monitoring is going to inform you about anomalies in network traffic, potentially malicious, but it's very, very bad suited to create your contextualized OT asset inventory. It will not get you there, and many operators or operators of OT threat detection solutions have experienced just that. Configuration information, SBOM and HBOM. Oh, that's interesting. A software bill of materials can be requested from your manufacturer. So, okay, so I forgot to share the screen again. So we're going down that list. Here we have the passive monitoring thing. Then we have the SBOM and HBOM. Good luck with that. If you ask your automation vendor, well, I would really like that software bill of materials. and you're not going to get it, because the automation vendor themselves, they don't have it, and they don't actually know which component software they're using. With hardware bill of materials, that's super simple. Yes, that is usually part of the delivery. So when you purchase and commission a distributed control system, you will get the hardware bill of materials. You will not get a software bill of materials. For the hardware bill of materials, though, my friends, you will even get the specific weights of those devices that you have purchased. But you won't hear anything about the software that's installed on them and the dependencies when it comes to components, etc. Point-in-time active scanning. Conducting upon an active scanning assessment can help you identify additional assets and their configurations within your environment. Before you do that, you should be aware that this process has the potential to overwhelm legacy devices, blah, blah, blah. So it's the same old nonsense that you have heard over and over again. Guys, this is completely obsolete, outdated advice. We are not talking about Nmap anymore. So you should be aware, in 2025, as a government agency, this is no longer how it works. And so the passive sniffing will not give you that contextualized OT asset inventory. It's not going to happen. That definitive record does not come from your passive sniffing device. You can create it, though, using active discovery, which everybody knows who has used OTBase, which only does active discovery. So that is ill-informed advice. It's obsolete, and it's really annoying that you still spill out this nonsense. Where your OT system is monitored, it is crucial to inform that they don't mistake it as an attack or something. So that's no longer a thing. Point-in-time active scanning. So that's not how it works. You use your active discovery. We don't call it scanning because everybody thinks of Nmap when you talk about scanning. Your active discovery runs automatically every 24 hours. And by doing that, it will exactly do what they want you to do. It will inform you of any configuration changes. And it will automatically keep your OT asset inventory evergreen. This is what an active discovery product does. This is not what you're going to get with your passive sniffing stuff. So that, my friends, is ill advice, and it should not be in a government document. How will information be validated? Validate you have collected, a critical step. Well, I tell you something. If you go the active discovery route, it's an excellent system of record. And certainly you can verify every now and then, is that RTU actually running firmware version 4.3? And certainly you will get the same information if you use the engineering software and check the validity of this information that you have seen in OT asset inventory. Okay. How will the definitive record, translation, the contextualized evergreen OT asset inventory, be maintained? Once it has been established, it is critical to maintain the integrity and accuracy of this record. Change management processes and controls are vital for achieving this. No, they are not, and I'll tell you why. So just as explained earlier, the active discovery product automatically refreshes that information, the asset details. Okay, it would even discover automatically that particular device, let's just say that actuator was moved from this network to another network. It was relocated. That's determined automatically. So you don't do change management for this. Change management plays a completely different role. So for change management, what you want to accomplish is you want to be able to catch and plan configuration changes of your OT infrastructure. So that's something that is unrelated to the accuracy of the information that you keep in your OT asset inventory. Principle 2, establish an OT information security management program. Yes, that, okay, excuse me. There we go, principle 2. That is correct. That's an important point. Many asset owners miss this. Once that you have your definitive record or your contextualized OT asset inventory, so now you have the capability to actually assess your security posture, or your obsolete devices, etc. Then that will raise the question, okay, now what? Now what are we going to do with all that information? And that, my friends, is not answered by the asset inventory itself. That is something that the organization needs to answer. They need to define where they want to be, and if that is aligned with what they have. And the answer is always, in every single case, no, it's not aligned. Oh, so we had expected it wouldn't be as bad as we now have to admit it is. So therefore, it's inevitable that at some point in time, rather sooner than later, you build and employ such an OT security management program, because the management program will tell you and everybody else in the organization where you want to be and what should be done to get there. Like you set the roadmap, and that roadmap will usually include periodic audits where management checks if you are on target. You will not be on target, I can tell you right away. But this is what the asset inventory as such doesn't tell you by itself. So that is an important aspect. I like it in this document. What is the scope? Blah, blah, blah. Standard documents. Okay. Design information. Yeah, also not a bad idea. Just so what they are telling us is just put everything else on context that you have in there. You can do that rather easily in OT base, because you can attach documents to your OT systems, devices, networks, locations, and whatnot, so that everybody who is participating in that programmatic effort has easy access to all those documents. What is the value of OT information to an attacker? I can tell you zero. The value of that information is zero. So this is another occasion where, in my humble opinion, they totally veer off. That chapter is totally unnecessary. An attacker targeting an OT environment typically aims to disrupt, damage, and or destroy industrial systems or processes. Oh, really? How would you know? Give us some examples. They may also target OT systems to gain an economic advantage by stealing intellectual property or data sets that would enable competitors to improve their own processes. How many times did we see that? Can you give us, can you enlighten us? Give us examples. Is that really a thing? It might be, but I'm just saying I haven't seen it. And the least thing that I would worry about is this type of data security risk, information security risk in OT. And why am I hammering this? For a very simple reason. One, if you, in this context, would ever be inclined to veer into threat territory, then what would be the obvious thing to point to? Would it be intellectual property theft? So you're really telling me, all these guys out there who are trying to pull your recipes from your PLCs? I don't think so. The obvious threat that you want to expose is ransomware, and they don't do it. So they focus on something that, in my opinion, is rather insignificant. How to secure your OT information? Well, we don't need to take care of that, because so if you buy my argument, well, this is something that presently is not a real concern. Identify and categorize assets to support informed risk-based decisions. Yeah, certainly. That's what you need to do. Criticality describes how important the functioning is, and then they point out particular dimensions of criticality. I like it. Also, something that you can do in OT-base. So in OT-base, you not just document, oh, this is high criticality or low criticality or medium. So you also specify why a device or a system is critical, because it could have a safety impact, for example. It could have a business continuity impact. So I like that. To gain a complete understanding of a necessary, it should be examined in the context of the virus system. Absolutely right. You cannot assess criticality in isolation. Exposure, also very important. Availability, yes, certainly that is also important. Blah, blah, blah. Additional details on that whole aspect. Identify and document connectivity within your OT system, certainly. Also, good point. Before you can talk about zones and conduits in a 62443 context, certainly you must have that network topology and data flow in place, right? Luckily, there is a product that has all that. It's called OT-base. But getting back to the document, that is valid advice. If you like the approach that is laid out in 62443, which I will discuss in one of the upcoming webcasts, then certainly you first must have a tool that shows you the existing topology and the data flows and the system dependencies, etc. Before you have that, any talk about zones and conduits is hanging in thin air. It doesn't get you anywhere. Why does the asset need to communicate with, what does the asset need to communicate with to perform its function? Yeah, you should maintain a clear record of the connections, blah, blah, blah. This should clearly demonstrate which asset it depends on. The idea here seems to be, well, let's just ask the SME. If you do that, you will quickly find out they don't know. But they would rather like to know, but they don't know, because the person who configured the system probably years ago never bothered to document those connectivity dependencies and relationships. So the practical approach here is that you analyze the existing data flow that you have captured and try to make sense out of that data flow. In many cases, you will not be able to fully understand that whole data flow, but in some cases you will, and especially you will identify, oh, I don't think that this is really necessary, this flow from that PLC to a system in the enterprise network. I doubt that this is actually necessary or helpful. So this all is based on a map of existing data flow. Then, I have to speed it up here. We're getting to the end. What communication protocols are required? That's also data flow. You will see that in your data flow map. Which architectural security controls are currently implemented? Okay, that's a good idea. What are the network constraints, bandwidth, exposure, latency? Yeah, well, that doesn't, also a good point. This is unrelated to security, but certainly very important if you don't want to reconfigure your networks only to figure out, oh shit, it no longer works. Would a compromise allow an attacker to bypass existing controls? Okay, now we're getting into those thought experiments and scenarios. Understand and document third-party risk. Got it. Good idea. What are the contractual requirements? Okay. Good. I think, yeah, that was it. So, in summary, a well-intended paper I believe it could become much better if it would be strengthened. So it's if they would just cut away some unnecessary arguments, information security, stuff like that. And the other thing that might not be obvious to you, in my opinion, there are mingling two subjects together that probably deserve white papers or guidance in their own right. So the one topic is the evergreen contextualized OT asset inventory, which they label differently, like that definitive record. And the other topic is that OT security program. And the point would be, in my opinion, okay, let's first build that contextualized OT asset inventory and then talk about or give some guidance on how to create and execute OT security programs in a separate guidance document. I think mingling those two subjects together doesn't help because they are complex subjects in their own right. So bottom line, a lot of good ideas here. It could become so much better. And let's just hope there will be subsequent editions, revisions of that paper where they iron out some flaws as I see them. So certainly they might also disagree with me. No. He doesn't know what he's talking about. It's just the way that we have documented it in the first version. Okay, we got comments here. Let's see what we got. Given that cybersecurity is a layer of defense and zero trust can fully be protect legacy OT, how can we proactively address issues like this? There are probably a significant number of trivial vulnerabilities in operations technology that will never get updates, and in many cases, threat actors will find them first. How do we build a systematic approach to identify and harden these weak spots before exploitation? Well, in my opinion, Mehrun, first you got to start with a good idea of what you have. That is the contextualized OT asset inventory, and then you make another good point. Cybersecurity, as you know it from patching, etc., that is never going to fully protect legacy OT. And then the second aspect would be, and it relates to our topic of today's webinar. It relates to the paper. Then you need to put a lot of effort into network security. So network security in OT goes a long way. And this is why I also spent some time talking about the zones and conduits from IEC 62443. You will not get to a decent state in OT security if you don't implement network security, which means network segregation. So that's an important tool in our toolbox, and you would rather spend a lot of effort on employing it properly. But it all starts with knowing what you have, what the dependencies are, etc. And if you go back to the recorded webcasts on our YouTube channel, you will find a couple of videos where I talk about the Purdue model, for example. If only because I want to make it clear that the Purdue model is not a proper guidance for how to segment your OT network. So you will find a lot of additional information in those videos. Then we have another comment by Mehrun. Okay, that's just a link. Okay, I don't need to deal with that. So that's it for today. I hope you could take something away from this discussion of that document by our good friends in the UK. And just keep in mind, if you want me to comment on any topic or paper document that you have come across, just drop me a note. And if it catches my attention, I will be happy to give you my thoughts on it. Bye-bye.